For most of the 20th century, technological innovation was a closed system. Breakthrough discoveries occurred almost exclusively inside the massive, highly guarded research and development laboratories of major corporations. Only titans like AT&T, DuPont, and IBM possessed the sheer capital required to internalize the entire scientific pipeline, from theoretical research all the way to commercial production. Survival in this closed model demanded absolute self-reliance. A company had to generate its own ideas, build the prototypes, manufacture the units, and distribute them entirely in-house. As the century drew to a close, three pressures fractured that fortress. Highly skilled staff became increasingly mobile, complex scientific knowledge diffused rapidly across industries, and venture capital emerged to back independent startups. Corporations realized they could no longer control every step of the process. Instead of relying solely on their own labs, they began licensing new technologies from external creators, a system known as open innovation. This transition from a monolithic structure to a decentralized ecosystem fundamentally changed the math for corporate researchers. When breakthroughs occurred, the scientists and engineers responsible suddenly had an outside option. They could leave the corporate lab and commercialize the discovery themselves. The rise of technological entrepreneurship was the direct result of this ecological shift in how the global market handles, values, and distributes advanced knowledge. To understand the technological entrepreneur, we have to establish the baseline. Classical economists like Cantillon and Knight defined the standard entrepreneur as an organizer of production factors who purchases inputs at known prices and sells them at unknown prices, bearing the market risk. Later, Joseph Schumpeter reframed the entrepreneur as a disruptive force, someone who initiates new combinations of products or processes to force economic transformation. Israel Kirzner added that these individuals act as opportunity identifiers, spotting gaps in the market caused by an imperfect distribution of knowledge. But those definitions apply to anyone starting a retail store or a shipping logistics firm. What exactly isolates the technological entrepreneur from this general baseline of risk takers and managers? Urco Audio isolated this distinction using a four-part framework. First, the founder must have an affiliation with the source of the technology. Second, the business relies on exploiting advanced technological knowledge. Third and fourth, the firm must remain independent and entrepreneurially managed. Tacit knowledge functions as a highly specialized, unwritten technical capability residing within the founder's own skill set, an asset far less reproducible than a standard patent. Because this knowledge is so complex, these founders rely heavily on expansive networks, maintaining direct contact with universities, large companies, and research institutes to continuously apply their skills to practical problem solving. A technological entrepreneur's operational survival depends on their personal mastery of uncodified, advanced scientific capabilities. That reliance on applied expertise separates them from a traditional business owner. These founders are not a monolith. Their strategic advantages and operational blind spots are dictated by their specific professional origins. We can map these origins using a matrix developed by Paul Jones Evans. The research entrepreneur transitions from a university lab, leveraging pure discovery. The producer comes from industrial organizations, bringing deep expertise in physical manufacturing. The user emerges from marketing, understanding consumer needs. Finally, the opportunist lacks formal technical education but spots technology-based market gaps. Knowing a founder's origin point helps predict their market strategy. We can categorize those strategies using Urco Audio's technology market taxonomy. One of the most common strategies is the application innovator. This approach takes established generic technology and diffuses it into a highly specialized, unexploited niche. Consider Elon Musk's early entry into the automotive industry. Musk fits the profile of a producer-opportunist hybrid. The underlying components for electric vehicles were well understood. Electric cars were popular in the early 1900s, before the internal combustion engine took over. The technology existed, it required specialized diffusion. The 2008 Tesla Roadster utilized a textbook application innovator strategy. By combining established lithium-ion battery principles with the high-end sports car market, Tesla established a beachhead for the widespread commercialization of electric drivetrains. Contrast that approach with a research entrepreneur like Sergey Brin at Google, where pure algorithmic discovery drove the venture, separate from physical manufacturing constraints. Categorizing these profiles allows investors and economists to map out exactly how a given founder will attempt to penetrate a market and where their operational weaknesses lie. So why has the sheer volume of technological entrepreneurship exploded so rapidly over the last 30 years? The growth is driven by a specific set of institutional accelerants: higher rates of staff mobility, mature venture capital networks, and robust support from public agencies and universities. The widespread adoption of open innovation forged a symbiotic relationship in the market. Large firms actively scout for external ideas, creating a guaranteed buyer market for the intellectual property generated by agile startups. This creates a highly efficient division of labor. Small technology-based firms specialize in discovering niche applications, while large corporations supply the complementary assets, the global distribution chains, and marketing budgets required to scale them. But the most critical driver of this explosion is the shifting physical architecture of new technologies themselves. Mid-century advancements in aerospace, nuclear physics, and chemical engineering required massive capital. You needed industrial facilities, specialized equipment, and raw materials. Those physical requirements erected insurmountable barriers to entry for solo founders. The digital revolution changed the equation. The internet required servers and code, not blast furnaces. Founders like Jeff Bezos could capitalize on an architecture that demanded explicit knowledge and computational logic rather than heavy industrial facilities. This shift toward a knowledge-based economy democratized access. It lowered the barrier to entry so significantly that a small team of informed individuals could launch a high-technology firm from a desk. The modern technological entrepreneur operates as a vital transmission mechanism. They are the bridge in the 21st century economy, translating tacit institutional research into applied global market value.